Okay, I've done some drawing into here. I've got a few details set up. Got a chandelier and some sofas and some whatnot. And I'm ready to start inking. I feel like this sofa is a little bit short. I probably need to draw that a little bit bigger. This back of the sofa might be a little short. If I walk up to this height and out though. Yeah, that's should be up here. So I'm just going to make these corrections before I go into pen. You may have noticed that I've taped my paper here at the top corners. That way I can still flip it open to look underneath and see detail, but it'll hold up a little better as I'm tracing it. As I draw, I'm trace drawing so that I'm sort of correcting for some mistakes that I see as I go along here. Straightening out my chimney is one thing. I'm very sketchy with my plants. I don't do too much in terms of that detail. All right, I think that gets me enough to start doing light and shadow. I do want to take into here some detail markings. So I want to have my bricks coming off the chimney towards vanishing point left. And then towards vanishing point right when they turn the corner. I want to put some concrete marks around on the ceiling. I haven't done my chandelier yet. She's going to be a bit complicated since I don't have a solid shape there. Basically what I want to do is have some sparkle and light come up out of a darkness. So I'm probably going to darken the whole wall behind it. And let it be light. Save some light spots basically and then draw them in later. Perhaps I'll use at the end of my drawing a white pencil. Up here in these cabinets, maybe I get myself a guideline for plates and I draw them all frowning down. If I draw cups and glasses up here, I'm imagining the top of those coming. Right? So maybe I want a line of glasses here. I'm going to line those all up towards vanishing point right. I'm going to put them all the same height. And then vertical on the ends of them. If I have a picture up here, and imagine a sphere. And a spigot on one end. Just want to put some stuff up here. Maybe I even have some sculpture or some interesting whatnots that I'm not even going to define. I'm just going to put a couple things up there to add interest and to give myself repetition with variation. Alrighty then, I've got this line here, should probably go, these should be floorboards. I don't want to go too much into the details of all of this right now because I want to get to shading and help you with that. Make sure your floorboards go towards Vanishing points, get yourself. You also can do details after you're done shading. So for me, sometimes it's useful to come in and put in these kind of carpet lines after I'm done with the marker shading. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to place a piece of plastic underneath it. Take your markers, and we're going to start with the 30%, I think. That's usually my favorite one to start with. And I'm going to say the light's coming from the right because I have windows over there. So I know that the left side of this sofa is going to be in shadow. And the left side of this arm is going to be in shadow. And then this part here is going to be in shadow. And I can shade that all the way to the floor because I know I'm going to cast a shadow down under here, aren't I? Maybe a little bit even in front of it. This end of this table is going to be in shadow. This end of the table is going to be a shadow. If I want to cast a little bit of a round shadow out in front of that table, I'm going to put a little shadow out here onto the floor. The backs of these chairs is going to be in shadow. This is like a cylinder, so there's going to be a point along here where it moves from light into shadow. So I'm going to work this in a cross contour going around the back of the chair this way. Once I decide where my, just shadow blocking, but this is where my shadow core is going to be on the edge of that, right? The end of the counter. This end of this cabinet. Moving my marker towards vanishing point. Chipping away from the corners. Now inside of the cabinet, I want to get some darkness in there. So I'm going to shade the ends of these. And that'll let these glasses pop up out of there. I may let light hit up underneath there. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with light in this direction. I'm probably going to leave this direction light. I may use my 10% on this surface and my 100% white, leave the paper white on the top. But since these are facing away from the window and that end of the thing, I want to color all these cabinets in dark with my 30 probably. And this whole front of the fireplace, I think, needs to be blocked down because it's facing away from the light. I can move towards left vanishing point with my marker, or I can move straight up and down because that's the direction that that wall goes. I'm moving the end of my marker to chip into the edge of this and then pulling down. And in some places I'm pressing a little more. You notice that I'm sort of making this a little bit darker here under where I know it's going to go really dark. Of course, I'm going to come in with my 50% later. I may want to take the pointed end of this and be specific about the fact that this shadow is going to start right here. This vase, I'm going to shade this side of it actually because the window is going to hit it that way. I'm going to come up into here and do my flowers just a little bit away from the light, just scribble something in there. Not too much of anything. This should be dark. That I'm probably going to leave light right there. While I'm here with my 30%, I could streak in a little bit up and down on my mirror. This light fixture, I want to leave totally light for right now, but I probably want to go into the wall behind it. Actually, I'll address that light fixture at the end. I want to get some lines into the curtains. Probably a little cast shadow on this side and the outside edge of it. These I could treat light spheres and sort of cast a shadow on the outside of those. Here's a bowl. I want to shade that away from the window. So I'm going to shade this side of that cylinder. Maybe even some of those fruits. I want to just get a little shadow into there. All these objects, I could shade the left side of them since I'm shading the left side of everything in the room. I might not go with a high contrast up here. In the details, I don't go in with my 50 and my 100 and all that kind of stuff. I just want it to look like it's got stuff in the room. I don't necessarily want to make that stuff the focal point, so I'm not going to pull a lot of attention towards that right now. I'm going to shade here on the floor a little bit. It says if these are casting a shadow out here into the room. And then if I've got a wall there, I'm going to connect that shadow to the floor like that. I think it's important for me to say that this cabinet here, there's a little bit of wall right here I want to shade. This here, I can see there's some sloppy drawings, so maybe right now I'm going to come in and correct for that so that I don't mess it up with my shadow. Connect this guy to that. So I see this coming out into the light and this dropping away into the shadow. I see that I've missed the front of this sofa here. I'm going to leave the top of it as if it's facing the light. So I'm just going to come up a couple strokes with that. And I want to shade this board here as if this board is facing away from the light. I might leave just a little bit at the top of that as well, as if that's catching a little bit of backlighting there. Those of you who have pillows, we'll want to draw around the left side of the pillow and probably the bottom of the pillow as well, just a bit, and maybe even want to cast a little bit of light onto the sofa behind that pillow. Here I drew a chop in the top of the pillow. Here I did it with my marker, so I'm just showing there's a little bit of shadow over there. Probably getting a little too detailed with that. All right, it's time to go to my 50%. Maybe I'll go 70 first. Should I do 70 to get me moving quickly here? I want to show the bottom of this leg. And I'm going to take my 50 and I'm going to blend that out towards the 30. I'm going to take my 30 at the end and blend my 50 back into my 30. Just pulling that darker color forward a little bit. That's nice. All right, 70, 50, 30. So I want to go 70 here, and here, and here, and here. Right? Maybe I want to put a little 70 here to sort of cast a shadow onto the floor of that. Here I could put a little 70 as if I'm casting a shadow out. I'm just putting these in because I know I'm going to need them at the end of the drawing. A little bit of a bump up here and there. Now I'm going to push that fireplace back quite a lot. Probably going to push that all down to 50. You can help this 30 here pop out in the light again, right? Let's get a couple 50 strokes into this mirror. Let's get this blended in. Let's get this blended in. I don't have any shadow core, and I'm not really seeing from a distance this turn here, so I'm going to go 50 right there. I'm going to go 50 right there. I'm going to go 50 along here, and here, and there, and there, and there. So I'm basically doing shadow core now. Then I can take my 30, and I can blend those back in. And out to my 30. I'm purposely working into the 50 and pulling that down towards the other surface. See how that popped out the top of that pillow? Even though I drew that pillow afterwards, it's starting to read in terms of light and shadow now. Probably should put a little 50 on the front of that. I think my 30 is a little dry. I'm having some trouble pulling that out. So it looks like I need to go buy another 30 marker. You can do two things with your light. You can choose to light based on something in the room, or you can light everything from above and to the right, or above and to the left, right? So when we taught you to shade at the beginning of the quarter, we said all light and shadows, like this is like a cube, right? And I think about this like there's a light above and to the right, and so I'm casting a shadow. So this is light and this is light, right? At the end, I might take a 10% and say, well, the top is going to be lighter than the side, so I'm going to shade this side in too, right? So I'm starting to get this side a little darker, and this side is going to be a little darker than the top, yeah? That would be that kind of cube shading that I'm thinking about, as opposed to taking this drawing and saying, well, the light's all going to come from this window. Does that make sense to you? Because I have the light from the window, I'm saying it's above and to the right instead of above and to the left. It might be that at nighttime, if I have the kitchen light on, this whole living room would be lit above and to the left. I'm going to punch into these areas a little bit of 50%. I kind of want these things to drop back into these shelves. I might do a little more dark. I kind of like that being light up there, though. I honestly don't want to go too heavy up in that. At the end of my drawing, then I'm going to go in and make sure that I get my things highlighted and all of my, all this kind of dotting stuff and the sofas and the textures that I need to have in there. Okay. I want to talk for just a minute about the chandelier. I'm going to go 10% on the front of this counter. And then because I did a wood grain in there and I tried it before with a pen and it didn't work out, I don't want to go, actually I want to do at least a 30. I think I'm going to go 50 underneath. I'm going to cast a shadow under this guy. Don't that show up? But this out here, if I go with an ink on here and I start drawing wood and I start drawing marble on top of here, I'm going to have a problem. I'm actually going to cast a shadow this way on the top of that counter. I think that'll be cool because this wall is going to kind of cast a shadow over there. If I go in here with a pen and I start drawing marbling and wood in here, it's going to be really too much. So I'm going to take a pencil. Because I can draw lightly with a pencil. And if I draw too hard, I can go into it with my kneaded eraser. I can tap it or rub it a little bit, and it's going to make it even lighter. So see how nice this kind of wood grain is turning out here. Not doing it all the way across, I'm just putting it in once in a while as an indicator, just kind of like I did with the bricks, to show people that there's a wood grain on here and that it's going up and down. I don't want that to become too much of a line. Up here, if I want this to be marble, then maybe I'm going to put some marbly lines across there. If it gets to be too much, then come around here and tap it out with until you get just the slightest hint of a marble there. Okay. I'll take this sculpture and move it away from the light a little bit, just to give these things some dimensionality. Having some fun out here with my things. My plants, I'm going to put spots and dots into. So I'm going to come along with this guy at the end of the drawing, and I'm going to do a lot more work. The chandelier, the way to make a chandelier pop up is to light behind it. So I might take this whole wall back here and go 30%. And now I'm sort of just randomly popping in here and there between the candles and the stuff and things. I don't know even what all this is. I haven't thought it through well enough. I'm going to go with 30% up to this point so that I can give that something to drop back against. Just put a little bit of darkness in between. So now it's sort of coming up out of a dark area. So already that's starting to look a little bit like a chandelier. I could take my 50. I'm not going to do too much in this because this is a, I mean, unless this was the centerpiece of my room and I really wanted to just have everybody look at that instead of my drawing. I'm going to come and I'm going to say some of these might be, I'm not going to trace every single ball. I'm going to go in next to them and around them and sort of randomly kind of do something, but I'm always going to put a C curve to the left as if it was darkening that side of the ball. So the big balls, maybe I am going to treat like a sphere and shade them like the light's coming from that direction. At the end of that, I can come in again with this guy and I can sort of try to put little dots of light as if there was a sparkle off some of those objects.